So if you're like me, anytime you get the chance to put someone who has little to no idea of what anime is, you always try to get them started with the basics. Of course, for your openers, you could always recommend something like Attack on Titan, Dragon Ball, Death Note, My Hero Academia maybe, and so on. But no, actually, I think I might have found the perfect anime to get your friends, if you have any, onto anime, because today we're talking about Soul Eater. And not only does it have jarring action, lovable and memorable characters, animation that makes you wish you could go back to the early 2000s and cope back to the superior time of animation, but most importantly, it has fan service. And even for the time the series came out, in which was all the way back in 2008, it still holds recognition even to this day. Granted, that's probably because of its correlation to mangaka Atsushi Okubo's current series, well, I guess not current anymore with its recent ending, but Fire Force. I've heard a lot of things about Fire Force recently after dropping the series, so I guess it might have to be time to pick up the manga and see where things left off at. But I think everything falls back on that Soul Eater is a gem amongst a few others, and it's crazy that not only I decided to check it out, but for what it's worth, let's bring some more recognition to this show, because this shit slaps. Soul Eater revolves around three sets of teams, which are our main characters Maka and Soul, Blackstar and Tsubaki, and Death the Kid with Patty and Liz Thompson. They all attend the DWMA, which for a while before watching the show I thought was an abbreviation for a 90s hip hop group, but it's actually just an abbreviation for Death Weapon Meister Academy, a school of technical and cunning kids who are trying to learn more about and obtain a death scythe. In order to obtain a death scythe though, you must collect the souls of precisely 99 evil humans and one witch, because if you go overboard then you might just have to start all over. But practically there are two types of students that go through the academy, one being the weapon itself and the weapon meister, hence why they run in almost always teams of two to set out on missions for. On our main character's off time though, when not at school, it's usually around the city or the world even, defending and protecting anyone from devilish acts or anything witch related, or sometimes just relaxing and shooting hoops even, which is practical because as serious and as tone as their job is, wouldn't you think they would leave it up to the adults? Well, no, this is a shonen after all, where we throw our kids into battle and have our parents sim over really hot women. I mean, I do that too, but anyways, Soul Eater not only has a pretty basic grip on the tone of a generic shonen story, but as the series progresses, questions and mysteries start to gather up around the academy. As the story continues, we learn that not everything seems as it is at the DWMA. People come and go, and there almost always is an imposter among us. Most of the bum characters in the show though, including witches and their pawns, their job is to restore and bring back the Kishin, which long ago, before the DWMA was even founded, Lord Death had a team under him and they were originally the ones who hunted down evil souls. The only catch is, just like the students at the DWMA, they weren't allowed to hunt anyone down without Lord Death's permission, and on one fateful day, one specific Meister decided too much power wasn't even enough for him, in doing so creating and forming what we know as a Kishin. As far as we know though, the rest of the characters in Soul Eater are pretty rad. A lot of the characters all share something in common, whether that being a weapon and or a meister, but all of them are really branched apart in some ways and have a different aspect to them that make each and every single one of them special in their own unique way. This goes as far as to express anything from their character description all the way to their abilities and backstory. On one side you have a darling female lead, Maka, with a huge ton of passionate potential, to the star of the show, Blackstar, with a super energetic and reckless tone, to flipping the script with Mr. OCD and Symmetry's everything Death the Kid. And it's crazy to think that this specific cast and set of weapon meisters really share something crazy in common. I mean, with the help from their weapons and the drive that keeps them going, it's really all they need to see why each and every single one of them show importance to each other. And you could say that on one side they actually really hate each other, but in serious moments they really take things to heart, and as backstories continue to spread on throughout and characters start to show more empathy, you really start to see the emotion just lay flat on out. In other words, these characters do sympathize with each other, and it gives you all the more reason why the diversity between them all makes just each and every single one of them worthwhile. On top of the wholesome sympathy between the cast though, there are also a ton of characters with darker themes scheming around the corner. Yeah, Soul Eater doesn't forget about those either. Krona for one and Stein for the other are some of the few characters that represent the darkest themes that can crawl around the corner at almost any point in time. When time ceases to feel like it's moving, these characters are stuck in a parallel point in their life when everything around them just doesn't seem real. Whether it be for unfortunate events and an undeserving childhood, it makes characters like them stick out and crave for better endeavors, as they both are single-handedly the ones that being eaten away by the souls around them. As for the world though, things stay pretty prevalent for the whole theme of the series, sticking to that Halloween Town mixture of academics and cast, and of course with Studio Bones doing an eventful amount of a job sticking to how well everything flows and looks within the series. Something worth noting though that Bones really is good with, just during the time of peak Bones, you know, back when it was good, before anime took a toll on how detailed things look. Like, come on, this is an animated show, make it look like one. It's just the vibe Soul Eater presents itself in that provides that unique and classic feel to it. Those reminiscent times back to when there's little to nothing to worry about. Yeah, those vibes. But presentation wise, Soul Eater and Bones give it all. And on top of the sakuga to the immense amount of culture change as the world shifts throughout the series, you can't really ask for a better setting for their series. And I mean, to add along, the soundtrack absolutely slaps right with it. It sets the perfect tone no matter the time of day. It doesn't really matter what the sun and the moon are gossiping about to themselves while they're out there, because the soundtrack just goes hard right along with them. And this kind of falls back onto what I was saying earlier about the whole 90s hip hop style. I mean, I'm not the biggest music person, but hey, this shit sounds like it was meant for kids growing up in the 90s. As an early 2000s kid myself though, I wouldn't know too much about it, but you know, it sounds dope, right? Another thing worth mentioning though is that if you're someone who finds the most ridiculous and obscure things to be funny, I think Soul Eater's comedy can tackle on aspects that are, well, actually, you know, it's just dumb. But I think that's needed for a show like this because it's enjoyable to see your favorite characters get along even when they're having their chivalry rivalries outside of the class or just jealous of one another because someone has a bigger chest than the other. It kind of just feels like you're back in class in their shoes to some degree, but in reality, Soul Eater gives you a retrospective outtake on children going out to hunt evil humans and witches because that's what normal academy students do out in the middle of the desert, right? The manga is also something I could have mentioned a bit earlier, I think. Just like the animation, the manga art has this unique and constructive feel to it that just makes you question what's to come next. I haven't progressed too much farther into the manga after the ending of the anime, but I've heard it's probably a good idea to go back a few arcs before picking up the manga. All in all though, that's probably where I'm headed, and I think Soul Eater, as wacky and as goofy as it is, definitely gave me and probably some of you that have consumed the series within the past few years or so that certain touch of nostalgia on a series that introduced you to the world of anime and manga. But by now, if you haven't watched and or read Soul Eater, do yourself a favor, go right ahead and check it out because it knows what you're looking for in a shonen action series, and it will for sure reel you in for a story that keeps your attention, characters that make you laugh and cry, and questions that make you ask if everything really seems as it is. This has been Augie though. Make sure you all do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, comment, and subscribe for more. I talk about your favorite series when I want to, and check out my Twitter at AnimeAugie because you know, that's what we do at the end of videos. Later everyone.